Hi, my name is Dr. Jacob Gallagher. I am the professor of trumpet. I also teach jazz history here at Frostburg State University. And today I'm going to be presenting and discussing a piece that I wrote and premiered called 3 ďutures for Trumpet and Orchestra. This piece was commissioned in 2019 by the Austin Symphony Orchestra in Minnesota and premiered that same fall by the same orchestra. When they came to me and asked me to write a piece and premiere it with them that fall, I immediately accepted it as a great opportunity for me. I love writing, I love performing, um, but it was a bigger project than I really had ever done before. So I had writer's block for a while. I think I just felt the pressure of the project and the size and scope just was daunting. And so I had writer's block for a while. And at the same time, I was also experiencing a lot of climate anxiety, which I think a lot of us have. It had been especially exacerbated recently because I had just had twins that were born in 2017. So the existential threat of climate change was suddenly feeling even more serious to me because now I know not only had to fight for the life of the planet, but also for my own children's future now. So that summer, I actually was playing at a reggae festival, and reggae has always been a music that's been more than just music. It's always been a cultural movement that blends art and political activism and spirituality. And it kind of inspired me as I was driving home from that gig at that festival. I decided to do the same and kind of try to solve my anxiety as well as write this piece that I had like a limited time left. I procrastinated and procrastinated for a few months. I was down to about a month left before I had to submit my score to the director. And then kind of driving home, I just had this wave of inspiration that I could do both and write a piece about climate change. And it just hit me really fast, like a lightning bolt, and I wrote furiously for a month straight and finished this 23-minute long piece for full orchestra and trumpet. I've always thought that art is best when when it affects and reflects society. Art should be combined with activism, not all the time, of course. We should sing about love and human emotion and trials of being human, but also I think some of the problems with current day classical music, for example, and why it seems to be losing younger audiences is it gets too dissociated from what's going on in day-to-day life, what people are actually experiencing. And I think we have a duty as musicians to use our art to affect change for for the greater good. And so yeah, so I'll talk a little bit more about this piece now. It's called 3 ďutures for trumpet and orchestra. I'll go through the individual movements, meanings, and also mention a few things to listen for. So there's 3 movements, and the first one is called future pending. And though this piece is not explicitly programmatic, there's not a story or a narrative to it, it does depict 3 climate crisis scenarios. The first movement, called Future Pending, is based on our current climate trajectory, where the planet experiences the collapse of our ecosystems, mass extinction, and eventually the fall of human civilization. It starts with a warning call sounded by the trumpet in the pedal register. That means the really low notes. On the trumpet, that sounds very eerie, disturbing. It's not a normal sound for the trumpet to make. Um, and so that kind of is supposed to symbolize a warning call, so like a military warning call, or perhaps a siren. This is followed by dissonant harmonies and an ominous melody that sounds like dark clouds of calamity slowly rolling across the planet. Portents of catastrophe devolve into a destabilizing 7-8 meter with unusual 10 measure phrases. It's very rhythmically uncomfortable to listen to. There are dissonant chords and synthetic scales and rhythmic chaos that portray the panic of starvation, drought, war, and natural disasters brought on by runaway climate change. An emergency siren call from the trumpet ends the panic. You'll see me spinning around on stage to create a sort of a tornado siren effect or an air raid siren effect. Um, and and this ends the panic, and signals the end of it. And the movement ends with a lament for the earth and the survivors of the orchestra, the survivors playing a lament for the planet. At the end, the trumpet tolls a dissonant death knell as the strings and marimba fade into oblivion. The second movement is called Future Lost, and it is a an imagined future had we acted on climate change sooner. In essence, it paints a picture of a green utopia. The melodies and harmonies are simple and clear. The cyclical rhythm, soaring melodies, and minimalist approach to the movement give a sense of floating and tranquility. It is the only movement that follows conventional major tonality, providing a moment of comfort and familiarity in the middle of the piece. However, there is always a bittersweet undercurrent of dissonance, as this is a feature we can never have. Future Possible is the third and final movement. It is a call to action with high energy rhythmic drive and heroic melodies. Its modal harmonies, which avoid decisively settling in either major or minor keys, illustrate that neither is all hope lost, nor is anything assured. The melodies tend towards the pentatonic scale, which is the most universal pitch set, just as climate change is a global problem. The peak of the piece, played on the piccolo trumpet, sets up the expectation for a heroic major chord, but is thwarted at the last minute. Yeah, hi kiddo. Okay, I'll see you later. The melodies tend towards the pentatonic scale, which is most universal pitch set, just as the climate change is a global problem. The peak of the piece, played on the piccolo trumpet, sets up expectation for a heroic major chord, but it is thwarted at the last minute by a deceptive minor cadence. However, moments later, the trumpet returns once again, saving the orchestra from the brink of disaster and resolving to the longed-for major resolution. The cadenza recalls the warning sound at the beginning of the piece in the first movement, this time with more urgency. Then there is a more melancholy strain, reminding us of the catastrophic loss that is at stake with climate change, before returning to the call to action theme that brings the piece to its rousing conclusion. It ends bombastically on an unsettled chord, neither resolved or unresolved, symbolic of the unfinished work we have to do to save the environment and stop the climate crisis. So now you're about to hear the performance that I did at Frostburg State University in March 2020, only a week before the pandemic shut everything down. This performance, of course, the original performance is with orchestra. This is with a piano reduction that I wrote, and I'll be accompanied by the esteemed Dr. Joseph Jungen on the piano. This is recorded at Peeler Hall in March 2020. Thank you for listening to 3 Futures for Trumpet and Orchestra.